All right, guys, let's get this going here. Today, we're going to recap where we've been going this year around our coaching and leadership skills. I'm going to check in with everybody there. And then we're going to set the stage and answer any questions you might have because we're going to be together here in about 3 weeks. So, if you the strategy is
Hello.
But because of everything that's happened, and so that's relevant to them. It may not be relevant to anybody else, especially if you're not a baseball fan, but the law of identification is finding out what's relevant to people right now. Then the 6 W's, which are some questions we're going to go over on how to establish kind of where people are and where they need to go. Egan's 3-step stage helping model, solution-focused questions, informal coaching, giving feedback, and the whole message model. So we're going to go back over those. Let's see what you guys are doing with them. The coaching principles. First of all, let me kind of go around the room here. We'll start with you, Trevor. Trevor just absolutely loves meetings. He's added. But in all seriousness, Trevor, how are the one-on-ones going with your team as far as getting them more connected, helping them get where they need to go, and to help you get where you need to go?
So I don't know if this is for everyone else, but you're kind of cutting in and out, and for me, yeah. I don't know if this is. So I heard about, yes. I don't know, 25% of all of that content, which I'm sure was incredibly important and valuable. Could you repeat the question?
The question?
There?
Yep. What I was saying, do you hear me better now? I put my headset on. Much better. Cool. So on the previous slide, I just hit all the things that we've been working on. And before we get back into and review these, I just wanted to check in with you. How are you doing on your one-on-ones with your team as far as understanding where they are, where they want to go, and then helping them get there?
I think pretty good. So, you know, like I said, we meet every Monday at 11. It's a good team meeting, and then I have follow-ups after that with Carissa, Drew, and it's you know, I've tried to be more intentional. And typically, when you're more intentional, you're focused on something specific like that, you get results. So, with that being said, I'm looking forward to Charlotte, and then also sitting down with Drew and Tyler and starting to plan specifically what they're looking at in 2018, what they want, all the different categories. So room for improvement, certainly, but overall I feel like the intentionality has been good.
Okay. Thank you, Trevor. Who else has joined us?
Carrie Mangat, good morning.
Hey, Carrie.
Hello.
Brian, I know you're in a little different spot. You're coming together in a partnership.
Right.
Any of this been relevant lately as far as meeting with people in regard to these coaching principles?
Well, it definitely has. I mean, the book that you recommended that Greg says we don't, but I do, was the Death by Meeting. The first meeting I had with the partners, I purchased the book for all 3 of them. And now we've brought on 2 new loan officers, so now I have starting to build the team. And the principle of, you know, kind of what Trevor was saying, like there's a lot of room for improvement, but keeping the meetings very focused. Where are we going for 2018? And I'm very wet behind the ears in this process. This coaching program is perfect for me. You know, listening to everyone talk and kind of implementing it into my business. So that's where I'm at right now.
Okay. Excellent. Carrie or Greg, anything to add before we get started and go over these about the coaching principles?
No, Travis, but I wanted to recap or reiterate what Trevor indicated is literally when you said, let's get going, I lost about 90% of what you said, you know, up until the point where Trevor, you know, started speaking again. So okay. I don't understand the context or I'm not quite sure where we're at. So.
Sure. Well, if I go, let me see if I hit backspace. Really, all I did was throw up the coaching skills the things that we've been working on, a high-level overview. And I just talked about, let's do a quick check-in. So that's what we're doing.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go back over some of these principles.
Good. Cool.
Okay. So the 6 W's, there again, I had Sherry English. She's a new coach. You guys will meet her in Charlotte. And she was in over the weekend, and we were working on business planning and programs, and we're working on coaching. And we were talking about, there again, leading with questions. If you're trying to help someone get where they want to go, we can tell them, we can give them observations and tell, but we know asking questions evolves a person's thinking to come up with the best answer. And so these 6 W's are great just to have in your back pocket. Where are they now? What do they want? What are the obstacles? What are their strengths? What are the strategies? And then what are the measures of success? So oftentimes I think we think in order to coach someone or lead someone, we may need like a long formula or playbook to follow, but just asking these questions and letting them think through will go a long way in helping them find their own answer. So with that in mind, let's see. I'm trying to advance the slide here, and it won't advance the slide. Hold on. Stop sharing. Let me do this real quick, guys. Sorry about that. Do we have someone else join us?
Yeah, it's Bob.
Hey, Bob.
Hey, Bob.
We're just getting going here, talking about the different coaching skills and leadership skills. Any updates on your end of how you're developing people and what's going on there, positive or negative?
Well, I think lots of positive. We're in the throes of promoting 2 people to AFA. Actually, I think we just promoted one a few weeks ago and another one coming up. As you know, we're working on a merger with Brent, and we're working on developing 2 other guys to merge with us in a year. So we have them doing some projects for us relative to helping us lead Rise. So we're actually focusing a lot on leadership development.
So, Bob, let's take a pause because I'm very familiar with what you're doing, and I know that you and Brent work a lot behind the scenes to stay ahead of everything. How are you using, coaching or leadership and asking questions to guide things like the merger as well as these potential 2 new partners coming in?
Well, when we started talking about equity in the practice, I don't know, a year or 2, probably a couple of years ago with the team, because some people have shown interest in owning equity in the firm. And we pretty much laid out to them that in order to be a future owner of the firm, that you need to be able to show that you can lead the firm and that you can grow the firm. And think about it, my vision is that we have an enduring firm, so that this Rise, one of the reasons we changed it to Rise is that long after I'm gone, the Rise will continue and for generations to come. And I hope to be part of it for a long period of time, even if I'm not, fully active in it. I'd like to be part of it long beyond when I'm, working, full time, if you will. So I want to own a piece of it, and I want it to continue to grow. So in order for it to continue to grow, we have to have people running it that can lead the firm and grow the firm. So the implications there are you got to show us that you can bring on clients, that you can bring in practices, that you can lead people, and that you can, run something in the firm. And so where we have 2 guys that came in from P1 about 2 years ago, and we told them that we need help, and if you want to be equity owners, we need to see that you can lead the firm and grow the firm. And so they're integral parts of our leadership team now, and they're doing things that takes things off of our plate in anticipation of them getting them being able to buy into equity in our firm. I mean,
so if you listen
kind
to
of a long answer to a short
no,
question.
but it's perfect. So look at what we have up on the screen is the three-stage helping model, Egan. And so if you heard Bob, he was telling you what the current scenario was, and then he threw out what's the preferred scenario. And he used, hey, if you want to be an owner, it's about leading and about growing, the ability to grow the business. And so, and then we haven't really got into the action strategies, but I know in working with Bob, they're very meticulous about, okay, so if you want to lead, here's what you're going to have to do and how you need to get there, and here's how we're going to measure it. If you're wanting to grow, here's what you have to do to produce in order to be considered on this equity track. So all I'm saying is, I know this sounds very basic, but sometimes we miss out on the basics here in our day-to-day leadership, is that we got to know what the current scenario is. Where are we? What are our strengths? What are our gaps? Almost like a SWOT analysis. But then as a part of a leader, people, the reason why we're the leaders and we have people working below us is because a lot of times they don't understand the preferred scenario. And so we have to work ahead to make sure we're painting a very good picture for that. And then I know one of the things that Bob and Brent do really well in the action strategies, they stay ahead, but that's where the buy-in comes in, and that's where you're allowing others to then help you determine what are those action strategies so they own it. Is that a pretty good, accurate description, Bob, of how you guys are doing things there?
Yep. And, the thing is, too, we tend to complain about, we've been whining about how much time we're in meetings lately, but the fact of the matter is you got to have time to think about what you want and to work on the business rather than in the business. We all got 100 things to do, but, we've been good about carving out time and getting out of the office and just saying, okay, what's the strategy here? What are we going to do? So we're just coming off one of those think days where we had Brent and I and the two other future owners. We spent a half a day and coming up with a game plan of how we're going to organize for the coming year, and then we set a 5-year vision, how we're going to organize it in the coming year, and what are the, and then we have like 6 or 7 other bullet points that we have to work on between now and year end to get to that, kind of a race to the starting line, if you will.
Okay, excellent. Any questions for Bob on how he's using coaching or what he's going through? Nope. Okay. So, solution-focused questions. We had sent you guys a list. I'd be curious, Trevor, in your one-on-ones, what are some of the probably questions you're using a lot in your one-on-ones to whether establish where they are, help them understand, help them define where they want to go or get their strategies? What are some of the questions you're finding yourself using?
I usually lead with what's going well and what challenges are you dealing with, and then obviously talk about the Astros and important things like that.
Yeah. I think we need to intercede on your upcoming coaching agenda with Greg. Somewhere. Lots of room for. Okay. So, Brian, what about you? You brought on 2 new loan officers. You have a meeting with partners. How do you find yourself using questions to help guide people?
Well, the first question I've always asked is get to know them, initially. Kind of what Trevor said, what's going well in their business. But on the personal level, I really get connected to people personally. So one of the new loan officers in our office just went on a fishing trip. And you guys know I'm very right to the point. There's not a lot of spin in my life. I try to get things done. But he talked to me a half hour about fishing, and I don't really care for fishing. I don't know how to fish. Don't really want to go fishing. But I spent the time talking to them, really getting to understand it, and actually enlightened me a little bit to lead into something like the next conversation of what, building that rapport with them. So that's kind of one of the people I'm working with, and the other one I haven't had the opportunity yet. I got to make an effort to do what Trevor just mentioned, which is challenges and stuff going well. So.
Okay. So you talked about using questions to build rapport and deepen the relationship. Right. That's what I heard you say. Okay. Well, so I know you guys may recognize this from coaching calls. One of the first things I always ask, just to spring things, is, hey, what's new, better, and different?
Right.
And I found over the years it's a great opening question in a call because you're covering a couple things. New, hopefully you're finding something that's got them excited. Better, you're looking for improvement. Different might be a new idea, new strategy, new person. But those are some good questions to answer or ask. And I found over the years people are even ready for that question when I ask it. Because they'll say things like, Trav, I knew you were going to answer that question, so I got ready for it. So I think that's a good opening line there. I think when we talk about solution-focused questions, it's how are we asking questions to help them think of the solution, but maybe do it differently. If the situation was different, the circumstances, what would you be doing different? What should you not be doing? If you did this in a different way, what would other people see? How would they notice? And there again, the premise behind solution-focused questions is to get deep with somebody around a particular solution, but it's always helping people look at things differently. Like Greg does a great thing that I've adopted where he'll ask people if there's a problem. I want you to, for the next 10 days, write down 5 different things that how you can solve this. I've also heard Greg say another way to look at a solution is if you say yes, you're going to do something one way. Think about it if you answered the direct opposite way. Just to help understand the 2 different positions. It may not change your mind, but it may change your approach, knowing that there's different ways to look at this. So that's the premise behind solution-focused questions. Greg, anything to follow up on those 2 things that you often recommend?
Well, I just wanted to, it's actually called the 20 idea method, and it's not my method. I think I probably introduced it to you as 5 ideas, just so I know you can get that done.
Yeah, I'm on the remedial path, so I need 5.
Right. But the doing the exact opposite, that's something that I use daily, and it's just, to me, it really stimulates the creativity. You're thinking about bringing on an advisor, you think you've got the right guy, you're going through, you're trying to figure out how to land them, and then, you just force yourself to just go the exact opposite. What if this guy's not the right guy? And you just completely turn it around, and I found that invaluable. One of the other things that I was working with somebody yesterday, and she was actually coaching me, and I just kind of want to introduce this, and maybe we come back to it at a different time, because it's a new concept to me, but she was focusing on she was asking the questions, but she was also providing answers, and one of the answers that she was providing was the most uncomfortable answer. And what she was doing is she was establishing a safety net that I could basically say the thing that I knew she didn't want to hear if it was true. And an example of that, so she basically finished and she goes, does that make sense? How does that feel? And she goes, does it feel the same? Does it feel different? Does it feel bad? Or something like that. And it was just very awakening for me to just have her provide that, that space and that place where I could say, you know what, nothing's different. And it just just wanted to get that out there and capture it.
Okay, great insight. So there again, I'm just throwing in different ideas out here to get us in the mode of asking questions, different questions, approaching problems and challenges just in a different way. The informal coaching, to refresh us on that, that's more about you know, Trevor, you're sitting around talking about the Astros and something business comes up, and you notice there's an opportunity to help someone either get clarity, you know, play to a strength, but you're just doing it on the fly. It also might be an opportunity to give praise in lieu, you know, of feedback, or it might be there again an offer it's just something that comes up. You might be able to offer how to think about something different. And so, you know, those things, I think some of my most insightful moments have come just in informal coaching, something spontaneous that happened. So, you know, we just want to be aware of that. The next one is, you know, we've been talking about feedback, and I want to reiterate that as you're meeting with people and having these one-on-ones and these team meetings, I really feel like it's important that you help your team understand the power of feedback and how it should be taken versus maybe how, you know, society thinks. We talked about that in our last webinar about the negative connotation that goes with feedback. So I think it's very important that you establish the boundaries with feedback. I know one of the first things I do when I start working with a new coaching client is I talk about feedback. You know, what's going to make you defensive, or what has made you defensive in the past? How do you view feedback? Do you view it as positive or negative? How do you best receive feedback? So I think that's one of those questions that we need to be asking each one of our team members, and we must be willing within reason, if they tell us how to give it, then we need to decipher, you know, we need to give it to them that way. Because I know that I'm fairly direct, and I warn people of that, just so they know that, you know, please always know my intention is to help you. However, I am human, and my tendency is to get right to the point. And in the past, that's rubbed people the wrong way, but I found, you know, time is of the essence, and I'm just kind of giving you my speech I do with that, but you may have a different speech. My point is, I think you really have to set up feedback and make sure the recipients understand your intention behind it, and if you have approach or a style, make sure they know about that. So any thoughts on that? Bob, talk about your style. How do you warm up people around feedback?
I'm just a teddy bear, Travis. You know me. I mean, I think that I'm pretty direct as well. Although, you know, if it's a tough message, you know, something that, you know, really isn't going to be received well, I'll use what's called the whole message model. I don't know if you guys know about that, but it's up
on the screen right now, Bob.
Oh, it is.
Yep. Good segue.
So I use that. I'll use that, and sometimes you can go through those steps just all at once and give all your feedback at once, or other times you might go over, you know, observations and thoughts, and then get their observations and thoughts and get confirmation, you know, work your way down the model. But ultimately agreeing on, you know, what action are we going to take, what's our goal, and that we want to work together on accomplishing the goal with the participant there.
Okay. Do you guys have any challenges being assertive in giving feedback? I know how I would answer that question for myself, and I don't have a problem, but.
No, I don't either.
None.
Yeah,
None.
We've noticed.
No.
Yeah, we've noticed. You've got some wounds still, don't you, Bob? So Trevor, you're okay being assertive?
No, I mean I like confrontation. So I think my issue is more on setting expectations appropriately and making sure that I don't, not offend, but, you know, hurt someone's feelings by being too direct. So, yeah, I want to get into it. You know what I mean? I want to confront people and argue and pursue truth.
Are they still offering that Dale Carnegie class, Winning Friends and Influencing People?
I thought maybe he went to the Drew school. To the Drew school.
Oh, the faux leadership? Pretend we're giving leadership? Pretend we're thing? Yeah. So, in all seriousness, Trevor, when you say you want to get into it, I mean, is it? What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm really impatient. So if we have a common goal, then let's not jerk around and like have an hour meeting and then, for 5 minutes at the end, talk about what we're actually going to do. Let's really get after it. And if I'm not doing something that I need to do to achieve that goal, then I want John, or you or whoever, or Greg, to tell me, hey, dude, you're pretty much not doing it, and you're a bum. Let's get after it.
But will that approach work with your team? Is that what they want you to tell them?
Probably not. I mean, I think one of them that would work with, but no, it's got to be a little bit more nuanced and specific. I got to take the bum out, right? Definitely got to take the bum out.
That's a good start, Trevor. Very good start. So here's just kind of there again, informal coaching exercise. What I'd like to see everybody do is ask this question to everyone they're having one-on-ones with. How do you best receive feedback? In other words, if I've got feedback for you, what's the best way for me to give that to you? So Ben, if you can make sure we get that down. I think that, because I know one of the frustrations just with entrepreneurs in general is that we get frustrated when people don't think and view the world like we do. And that's not fair to them, and that's not fair to us. And so this has us step back and put ourselves in their shoes. And don't get me wrong, they say, well, I don't know, just, kind of beat around the bush or go easy on me. Then I'm going to say, what does that mean? What does go easy on you? I don't know. Give me an example, throw out a scenario. If that happened, so I get it. Some people aren't as ready for feedback in the directness that we may give or want to receive. But I feel like the more we get to know the receiver of feedback and we can package it that way, then I think we're creating maybe that safe environment that Greg was talking about earlier. So let's make that an assignment. Any other thoughts on that?
Travis, you must remember Doug Lennox when he talked about the permission to lead questions.
Mm-hmm.
It just made me think of where he would ask if I see you doing activities that help you reach your goal, is it okay if I point that out to you and compliment you? Of course, people say yes. And then he asks if I see you doing activities that are in conflict with reaching your goals, is it okay if I point that out to you as well?
Great questions.
Getting that permission to lead.
That's very in line with what we're talking about, Bob, as a part of setting expectations around feedback. Excellent. Brian, what about you? How are you giving feedback and setting expectations?
On a scale of 1 to 10, I say I'm a 9. There's always room for improvement. But I would say
Is 1 the highest score or 10?
No, 10's the highest. I'm a 9.
Okay.
That's how I feel. You always got to give yourself, there's always room for improvement there. But I will say that I don't know if I was born this way or not, but I'm very good at building the rapport with the person. Like I built rapport with Trevor and Travis and Ben and Greg and Bob. The one part that I need to work on, which I can give the advice, but is to stop myself from going off on that tangent and getting right to the point like Trevor was mentioning, which I don't mind giving it, but sometimes I go too far off and I need to refocus my mind to get back to the – but to answer your question, Trevor, or to Travis, I don't have a problem giving advice, no, not at all.
Okay. Well, and really the question is more about how are you setting expectations to the receiver?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, I get it. There's a lot of people who are not afraid to be direct and assertive here, but I'm asking on the other end, how are you painting that picture and setting that expectation for the people that you are going to get direct with?
Well, a couple of the ways I do it is I try to build the camaraderie of if I meet somebody or if I know somebody directly, I will, how do you say this? Try to bring in other people that know them. So, trying to give the example of this. So if I was speaking with Greg, I might bring your name into the conversation, right? To build that camaraderie between the two people so that when I do give the advice, it's not just coming from me, it's coming from like a place of thinking, a place of common ground. That's kind of the thought coming from a place of there's a commonality amongst what I'm going to say. It's not coming at you and saying, hey, you have to do this, this, and this. Hey, this is kind of what I've been thinking about. I've been working with Travis. Hey, Greg, you should work on this. It didn't just come from me. So that's kind of the process of how my mind works. So,
okay,
kind of come from a team approach, I guess is the thought. So,
okay, we're using another messenger for credibility.
Exactly.
What you're doing there.
That's kind of right.
Okay. So the whole message model, Bob, I'll go over it again here. You know, it's writing down your observations of facts. You know, here's what I've seen happen. The feelings. Here's how it makes me feel or others feel when you do this. And then you get into the consequences of the facts. When you do this, this is how it, you know, hurts the office, hurts you as an individual, hurts the client, how that goes in. And then the last part's the most important part in regard to now we need to come together and we need to define and agree upon here's what we're trying to accomplish. And so I found this model, to Bob's point early, especially if you're giving a tough message, this allows you to walk through kind of the different facets that are going on here around the feedback, categorize them, and then deliver them in a way that will show the participant that this is very well thought out. I've learned over the years with this model, for me, it doesn't apply to all situations, but to almost all, when you're going to use the whole message model, usually it is a tough love message. I usually set it up with saying, I'm about ready to give you some feedback. What I need you to do is just listen, and I'll let you know when I'm at the end of it, and at that point you can ask some questions. Because you're naturally going to put someone on their heels here, and they can easily derail, you know, what you're trying to deliver and distract and throw some deflections here. So it's really important, I think, you get through this entire model before you actually let someone speak. So, but it's a very powerful tool. Any questions on the whole message model?
I would just say, Travis, that over the years I've had team members come to me with issues with other team members, and wondering how to, you know, resolve things. And I've taught them this whole message model, and it kind of relieves them that they have a way to communicate with, you know, with that person and reaching a common goal at the end of it. And forcing them to think the message through before they say something they didn't really mean. So it's just a really good tool.
Yeah, so now you're taking it downriver, right? Teaching someone else how to use that, which I think is a great point. I think sometimes as leaders we can set ourselves up where people always come to us and expect us to solve the problem. And what Bob is reminding me of, it's kind of like I do with my 13-year-old, 8-year-old. When they get into it, I don't really take a side unless I see something very obvious. I put them in a room and say, look, here's how life works. Life works. If you've got a problem, you two need to work it out. So you guys can come back once you tell me, you know, how the problem's been solved and how we're not going to have this go again. And essentially that's what Bob was talking about. You're going to give this tool to someone else so they can help solve their own problems with them so that they're not as dependent on you to at least go intervene. And I think that really builds up that empowerment and that self-responsibility we're looking to create. So great point, Bob.
That was just a dovetail on that. I think when we are sharing and we're teaching, these that language to someone else, I think it's also behooves us to, include the basic premise, the basic relationship that has to exist in order to have that conversation go well at all, and that's that there has to be trust. If basically there's no trust between two coworkers, it doesn't matter what words you use. If the foundation isn't there, if the barrier goes up right away, there's no way to get around that and to effectively communicate. And I think when we as leaders, we've been doing this long enough. We've already established that foundation of trust. But especially when you're talking about a new manager or just simply coworkers, if there's no trust, if there's no respect, that's really where it's got to start.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Good point. It goes to what Brian was saying, building that rapport, building that relationship. So any other questions or insights? Thank you, G. That was good. All right. So
just one dovetail on that. I know we've all read Simon Sinek's book. I posted on Facebook last night just a quick blip that I saw him speak of, where he basically talks about big companies and the idea of layoffs and how nobody trusts the leaders of big companies anymore because they're so willing to lay people off, and to protect perhaps their own. And so it just a great reference if anybody just jumps on my Facebook and sees the latest video from Simon.
Right. You also get a good feel of how Greg does his hair, according to Trevor, if you get on his Facebook page. Right. And I'm not going to mention anything about hair envy here either. So, so when we get together, we've sent out the assignment. We're asking you to bring some people challenges that you have, so that we can continue to have discussions like we are today. And we're going to get really myopic in the sense we're going to help solve for those 5 challenges that you have with people. I just talked to Dr. Zach. Actually, I talked to him about 3 times in the last couple of weeks. He's going to introduce a topic called open focus. He's recently gone through some training around meditation and problem solving and relaxation. And so he's going to share that with us. We're going to have you present your business and marketing plan. You'll have 7 minutes. The premise behind this is really there's 2 objectives. One, you guys can, really, after we did that first presentation, I think back in March, I got a lot of feedback about, hey, we like having our peers give feedback because there's no one in the room when we're delivering a seminar or speaking on behalf of our company. So one is just to continue to hone on your presentation skills. The second part of it is what I'm asking you to pick in that 7 minutes is what you want the most feedback on. Because at the end of each presentation, we're going to not only score you on your presentation to give you quality feedback on that, but we're going to almost turn that into a mastermind there too to ask questions and give feedback on that topic. So that has two objectives there. And then we're going to get into the masterminding like we normally do, and then we have Nito come in for a couple hours. Excuse me, and I talked to him later today, so I'll figure out what he's going to say after today. That's usually the way that works. I tell him a little bit about what's going on, and he tells me about what's going on, and we just kind of figure out some topics there. So any questions about the pre-work or anything we're asking you to do to get prepared for our upcoming time in Charlotte? And by the way, if you saw that very clever email that Ben sent out and scrolled to the bottom with a picture of Dave Mazzetti, okay, it was people want to know how to dress. We know that's not how to dress. So remember, you're on camera. So closing thoughts today, Trevor. Insights, closing thoughts.
My closing thoughts are expectations are really important. and sometimes you gotta throttle back. You can't just put the accelerator all the way down. You gotta throttle back, and in your conversations, and lead them to the water, not just take them and dunk their head underneath the water.
We've got to keep Trevor no matter what, just for the entertainment factor. You know what I mean? His analogies, I love them.
You can't make this stuff up.
Yes, exactly. Bob, insights? Bob Bonfilio, is he still on?
Oh,
Nope.
Here I am. I was on mute. I want to make sure that Trevor comment goes into the follow-up.
Yes.
But I would say that the number one most important thing we can do is develop our people, and that's how we're going to create leverage and be able to do the highest and best use. You use our time to its highest and best use. So this is all really good stuff to remind us on how to better develop our people.
Okay. And Bob and Ben, capture those questions that Bob came up to. I thought those were good. You know, when I see you doing things that are getting you towards your goal, can I give you praise? The permission question. At the same time, if I see you things that are disconnected to your goals, activities that are not getting you there, do I have permission? I thought that was very insightful as well. Brian?
Yeah, two takeaways. One was what Greg DeHaan had mentioned, which was, everything we think is the right direction because we're thinking it, but to put your thoughts in that critical thinking skill, which is the opposite thinking, which a lot of times we don't do. So that was really, that was enlightening. And then the message model, which is new to me, you threw it at me today. I'm looking at it, I'm going through it, and I really got to focus on that a little bit too. So I thought those were the two takeaways for myself, which was good.
Okay. Carrie Mangat?
Yes, I have two of them. One is what the Atlantic model Bob shared. I think that's excellent. I can expand on it. And another one, Bob, you shared is how to bring the grievances of the team member up front. So sometimes I end up taking it on myself. Now I can get it back to them to how to resolve it. Awesome.
Good stuff.
Cool. G?
Two thoughts. One, Brian and I had a great call recently, and we're celebrating his 1-year anniversary with the group. And to piggyback, so congratulations, Brian. Piggyback on what Bob said, I absolutely agree that the most important thing that we can do is to develop our people. I think I'm always reminded, though, that in order to be the best developer of people, we have to constantly be developing ourselves. And I recall back when I first joined Nito's group, IQ, Travis, before you were involved. I remember meeting Roxanne and just asking Roxanne how long she'd been in it. And she basically had been in it for, I think, close to 10 years. And I said, and after I'd gone to a couple meetings, I understood that, the principles were essentially the same. And I asked her, why in the world would you keep coming back here year after year for 10 years? Because she seemed like a bright woman. And it's true, she's one of the brightest women I've ever met, probably the smartest woman I've ever met, but she's constantly developing herself. And so even though the principles were the same, the application and how deep she was able to drink them in each time and the different layers of the onion that she's able to uncover just really told me this isn't about getting in, learning it, and getting it out and moving into something else. It's just about our constant development and evolution. And the better we develop ourselves, the better we're able to develop our people.
Yep. Good close, D. Did I miss anybody on the closing insights here? I think we got everybody. All right, gentlemen, great session today. I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys in Charlotte. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be great days of learning. We'll always have fun together. Dan Gam has a special video for everyone, so at a minimum, we'll either laugh at Dan or laugh with Dan or both. I don't know. So I'm really looking forward to Dan's video. He's got a new idea he wants to introduce to everybody. So with that said, if you guys need anything, feel free to reach out. We're here for you. You know, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we feel like we're on an island and all by ourselves. And that's one of the things that I've valued of being a part of this group and going back to my times with Nito and Greg is that because we're different, and that's okay, this group affords us to, you know, share our differences, which are really alikes for us, so that we don't feel alone and we're not going at this alone. So you guys have a great couple weeks. I look forward to seeing everybody in Charlotte.